Hey guys, it's Cody here. I'm on day 78 of the Odin project, and today I finished documenting the Where's Waldo project. So I finished that last week. There's definitely some things I could improve, but I'm putting them off for right now because the minimal viable product is built with that. So I'm going to move on to something that I find more interesting, and that is the final project for the JavaScript course. Now I'm actually going to be deviating from the instructions of the course for this project. I'm not going to be replicating a favorite website of mine. It instructs you to look at Twitter, Reddit, or Facebook, or one of your favorite websites and try to recreate it with the skills that you've learned. Instead of doing that, I'm going to take an idea that I've been sitting on for a while and actually execute the idea in the form of a website. So I do have experience setting up websites. I'm going to use things that I've learned from the Odin project now to actually build upon that knowledge and make a complete website for this final JavaScript project. So what is my idea? My idea comes from my previous experience as a sensory scientist. So I studied food science. I became a sensory science within the consumer packaged good industry. Sensory scientists essentially are kind of like the UI, UX people of the food and consumer packaged goods industry. So we're testing foods on consumers and collecting their responses and trying to give information to product developers, marketers, the business about ways that we can improve the product or things about consumer perception related to the product that we're launching or that we already have. So my specific role that I had previously was pretty niche within the sensory science industry. It was specifically managing professional tasting panels, and I had responsibilities over a 15-person panel at some times where I trained people on how to evaluate food products in a professional setting. So we would essentially use these trained panelists to get sensory information about products. What do I mean by sensory information? Things like how sweet is this product? What is the flavor profile of the product? Things like that. And during my time as a sensory scientist, I spent a lot of time with sensory lexicons and specifically building and maintaining sensory lexicons. Sensory lexicons essentially have sensory attributes within them, and sensory attributes have a term that is referring to a sensation that is experienced by people. Sensory attributes also have written definitions, and they should always have a physical reference, although that's not always the case. And so sensory lexicons are collections of these sensory attributes. There's a lot of published data out there right now on sensory lexicons. It's a lot of academic papers, and they're all over these databases. There's no central location for them. So my idea was to try to create a website where it is not only a sensory lexicon management system, so you can create your own lexicons, but you can also tap into this larger repository of sensory lexicons that have already been established. It takes a lot of resources, a lot of time, and a lot of money to actually set up a trained professional panel and to use sensory lexicons properly, and to even just make a sensory lexicon. It takes a lot of resources. So my thought is, well, why reinvent the wheel? Which is a bit of a pun for this space because these sensory lexicons actually are the things that you see when people talk about flavor wheels. Those are where those flavor wheels come from. So instead of reinventing the wheel, we're going to try to make a website that will allow sensory scientists to tap into this vast collection of sensory lexicons that are already out there and also allow them to create their own and maintain their own. So today I spent all day essentially thinking about how am I going to lay this out and thinking about structure and the format of the website essentially. I didn't get into any coding today. It was all essentially whiteboarding down my ideas and thinking about relationships, data, specific pages that I wanted to have, that kind of stuff. I want to be very transparent with you guys and how I'm doing this stuff for those that are maybe considering, having a business of their own one day. So this is also kind of documenting this part of it as well. I do show a lot of the code, but I want to show you this behind the scenes as well. So let's take a look at the screen over here. I have a couple pages worth of notes for today, and I started off with this page just thinking about, what pages do I want? I was thinking about, that top navigation menu, about, pricing, demo. This is definitely very unorganized, but that's kind of the point. This is just kind of throwing everything up onto the paper and then structuring and ordering things as I go. So I also had like this SLMS. This is the Sensory Lexicon Management System, is one part of the website, and then the repository is another part of the website. The management system should be modifiable, but you should also be able to create new lexicons with this system. And the repository is mainly just for viewing the lexicons that are there. And I think there could also be potential for incorporating them into new lexicons. This was kind of thinking about like tabs for like a dashboard of what I would want. So my attributes, my lexicons, discovery, my attributes being a list of all the attributes across all lexicons within a user's essentially dashboard, all lexicons being listed out, discover to actually look at the list of published lexicons, and then maybe some tools for finding related lexicons based on a specific lexicon that you have in mind, or based off of your collection of lexicons that you already have. And so down here, I was essentially kind of looking at these kind of tabs that could be a part of a dashboard and thinking about the data relationships that would be a part of those things. So this would be kind of like the overall dashboard, my lexicons. And within the dashboard, you would have some meta information, which would include a lexicon count, an attribute count, a reference count, and a product type count. So those would be kind of metadata that would be counts of all the lexicons that a business has. And then within this My Dashboard, there'd be lexicons that you could select. For each lexicon, it would have their specific information, like their name, number of attributes, number of references for that particular lexicon, and then an add lexicon. For going to like a lexicon page, again, there'd be some meta information, sensory attributes that are listed, and then add sensory attributes button. And then for sensory attributes, there would be a list of attributes. Each attribute would be here, but then for each attribute, be a term, definition, references, etc. And then you get even finer detail for the references, specifically because a sensory attribute should have multiple references to establish a quality that is being defined. And so this would also include reference-specific information like name, preparation, intensity, concentration, notes, that kind of stuff. So that was mainly about thinking about data relationships, and like essentially it's like a hierarchy of data going from a collection of lexicons to lexicons themselves to sensory attributes to sensory references for those attributes. Next, I started to get a little bit more visual with it. So this left-hand side of the screen, I started drawing this to try to think about what the dashboard would look like. And so you can kind of see up here, so we have this top nav, that would be kind of where my hero is at, the logo. And then a dashboard tab. It would have some of those things that I mentioned before. It would be more summary of the user's lexicons, attributes, and references and product types that they have. And there'd be potentially a big sensory flavor wheel here that would show essentially all those things all at once. And then these subsequent tabs could be used to get into the lexicons, to the attributes, to discovering new things, and then also going to user settings. For the lexicons, it would mainly display flavor wheels, and then if you clicked on a flavor wheel, then it would show the details of that flavor wheel. So that's just like one way of thinking about this. I could also list it out in tables, which I was thinking about having toggle buttons for toggling between those flavor wheels and tables, because for me, practically, tables actually work a lot better from that kind of context for searching through things. The flavor wheels are a bit more flashy, and people get excited about those. So I think that would be a really cool component to actually create, is the flavor wheels. But going on to the next thing, it'd be attributes, showing attributes by these cards, or doing a filter for having it as a table. And then this discovery tab would be for discovering that repo of that repository of all the published data. Essentially, this will be a place that someone, if they're looking to start a new lexicon, they can search through this to get an understanding of what's out there, what's not in their current lexicons, but what's out there, what's been published. And this is, you can do it with cards, with a table. And I think it would also be interesting to do it with a type of tree, branching tree that would list all the attributes in a very neat order. That would also be something that would be an interesting component that could be useful for other lexicon kind of attributes within the site as well. And then essentially mirroring that would be a discover lexicons. So this was attributes specifically, and this would be discovering lexicons. And it would have similar kind of features as the lexicons up here, being flavor wheels, and then clicking on them, you get more details about that flavor or that lexicon specifically. So that was just getting an understanding of those pages. I didn't do anything about a landing page or a sign-up page, as I've done that kind of stuff before, and I think that'll be a bit more straightforward. And I've already really done a landing page with the Odin project, so I'm probably just going to recycle from there. The next thing that I did was actually look at the kind of functions that I think I'm going to be making, or the functionality that I think I'm going to be incorporating. So these are things like adding lexicons, adding attributes, adding them in different ways. So manually entering them into a form, or uploading them with a CSV or Excel file that already has a sensory lexicon within it, editing attributes, archiving attributes, deleting attributes, copying attributes from one lexicon to the next. So stuff like that. And I was thinking about kind of what the user would go through for those things to happen. Just getting kind of like a high level overview of what that would be like. And then lastly, I left off with this page, just kind of things that I know I need to incorporate is like a landing page, sign up page, potentially a demo page if I get to that point at that time, once I get some of these other things built. And then specifically that flavor wheel component, I think would be an interesting thing. I would design it to be reusable within different sections of the site. So then I could utilize that, and it would make it a bit prettier for the client and be a nice feature that is fairly recognizable and would really be a part of the brand of the site, I would say. So that's all I have for today. I didn't spend all of the day doing that because I was documenting Where's Waldo, but this is where I got. I'll probably do a little bit more tomorrow, and then I'll actually start setting up the project and maybe get in a little bit of coding tomorrow. But today it was just trying to think through this stuff before actually diving into the code so that I have a plan going in. That's all I had for today, guys. So if you're interested in following mine and Emily's journeys into web development, then definitely hit subscribe, and I'll see you tomorrow.